welcome to SteamPunk. This is your host, SteamPunk Bob, the god of Reus reviews. What? It's a rather specific pantheon position, so it hadn't come up before. I don't have paladins, but I can grant clerics their spells. I have the sun, travel, and trickery domains if you're interested, but for now, let's talk about Reus. Reus is a game in which you play as, well, the planet itself. You have the power, however, to control 4 giants with the goal of making the world as habitable as possible for humanity. Humanity needs 3 different kinds of resources: food, wealth, and technology. Need may be a bit of a stretch, in that no settlement requires these resources. It's not uncommon for a village to have no food output. Humans can settle in 3 different biomes, each of which is closely aligned with one of the resources. Forests tend to be all about the food, desert settlements are generally wealth dependent, and your swampy villages are usually focused on science! There are also oceans and mountains which can contain resources, but humans don't ever settle on them. Of course, humans can't do much of anything without your providing natural resources to play with, and we do that because of our 4 giants. First, we have the ocean giant, our only source of water, who also has the power to create domesticatable, masticatable animals. Next up is the forest giant, who has the ability to turn shorelines into forests, as well as grow food plants. Third, we have the rock giant. He makes mountains which generally produce deserts. He can also provide the humans with mineral deposits they can use for wealth or technology. Finally, the swamp giant. He can turn shorelines into swamplands, as well as creating wealth-producing animals or more scientifically interesting plants. This game is basically a puzzle game. Each animal, vegetable, and mineral has different symbiotic relationships that improve it. You can bestow magic blessings on them, then transmute them into other things. For example, if you put a fruit aspect on blueberries, you can turn them into apple trees. Animals have a range of tiles they affect, but in return, they are generally less potent per tile than a plant or mineral resource. And finally, humans can build projects that give them specializations. Here's where I have my major gripe with the game. There's so many combinations of aspects, symbioses, and all that I basically need a spreadsheet to play the game. It's really telling when the game offers on both the title and pause screen to use Steam's web browser to get you to the game's wiki. That ties to another thing that tends to frustrate at times. The bulk of the natural resources are locked up until you've gotten a specific achievement or development. It makes some sense, and it's an attempt to introduce the player to all this complexity slower instead of just tossing you into the deep end. But then my humans start building something that improves cherry trees. Okay, how do I transmute something into... I can't make cherries? Thanks, humans. Why can't you improve pears? I know how to give you pear trees. The gameplay fires are reasonably strong despite my complaints. While optimizing things is sometimes tricky, you do start getting some memory about what produces specific transmutations, what's symbiotic with what, all that jazz. A spreadsheet might still be a good idea, though. 4 out of 5. Coal is usually our story, but as is usually the case with puzzle games, Reus really doesn't have one. As such, this category also covers the presentation of the project. So, as Mother Earth, I wake up to find no real human settlements or natural resources, so I have my giants terraformed to make it a nicer place to live. That's fine, and it sets the stage well enough for a god game. The only issue I have is that the end of the round is only explained with a hand wave of the giants only having so much energy and needing to sleep. Can't they sleep in shifts? We all know that when all 4 of them fall asleep, the next time they wake up, the planet will be a barren wasteland again. Still, the setting is good. 5 out of 5. Steam, our graphics and sound. I really like how this game looks. Each giant has a distinct look, a distinct body type, and they're all tied together into what the giant does. You could see little humans wandering around, mining resources, hunting animals, picking fruit, having conversations. It's neat. The music is rather forgettable, but it does still have some utility, especially if you actually intervene when your villages go to war, because the music does change when somebody declares war on somebody else. Overall, though, the graphics look good enough to make up for the rather lackluster music. 5 out of 5. Score and Electric's biggest flaw is how it uses my computing resources. This game tends to hang a lot for me. The ambient sound still plays fine, but nothing is moving. Thankfully, my timers don't go down during this pause, but it's still really irritating and drags down the fun factor a bit. The need of a spreadsheet or a tech tree of some sort to optimize your efforts is sometimes frustrating, but the wiki helps with some of that frustration. The use of my resources, however, is very flustering. 3 out of 5. Final score for Reus is a highly recommendable 17 out of 20. If you enjoy playing God, this is a fun spin on the concept.